A recent Journal of the American Medical Association publication suggests that both high and low levels of social media exposure and smart device usage could lead to more mental health issues in adolescents compared to moderate usage. Scott Galloway says that it's probably due to our competitive instinct as humans. In his new book, The Algebra of Happiness, Notes on the Pursuit of Success, Love, and Meaning. Scott Galloway, of course, is here with us to talk about the algebra of happiness. And I brought up the idea of social media because obviously you have to factor that into our modern algebra.
Well, I have a part of the book, and I talk about the meteors that could take us off track. Let's assume that we're all healthy, our kids are healthy, we're somewhat economically secure, we have all the accoutrements of happiness, and what are the greatest exogenous shocks that could really take us off track? And does everyone here have kids? I have kids. You all have kids?
No.
No kids? Julie, kids?
Yes.
So you have your world of work, you have your world of stuff, you have your world of friends, you have your world of kids. Something comes off the rails with one of your kids, literally the rest goes out, and it's about your kids. And I think one of the biggest threats to our happiness or our cohort is that a combination of this concierge and bulldozer parenting being practiced in today's society, where we use so many sanitary wipes on our kids' lives that they're not developing any immunities. And then they get to college and they have this princess and the pea syndrome where they literally can't handle adversity or any sort of struggle. In concert with these nuclear weapons of bullying and self-shame called social media, has resulted in what I think I can't take credit for this. I'm parroting my colleague Jonathan Haidt's words. He has a fantastic book out called The Coddling of the American Mind. But I believe we're facing an emerging mental health crisis among our teens. Emergency visits up substantially among young girls, self-cutting, self-harm. Teen suicide among boys up 30%. Among girls, it's up somewhere between 60 and 80%. This is a real crisis unfolding.
Well, we see that with the levels of anxiety and anxiety medications being prescribed to younger Americans. But I'm curious, is it definite, the causes of this? Because what I hear you saying is some of it might be parenting, or some of it might be the distractions of modern life.
Well, it's a confluence of things, but there's no doubt. Think about, so boys bully physically and verbally. Girls bully relationally. And we've put nuclear weapons of bullying relationally in the form of Instagram and Facebook. And not only, the term FOMO, fear of missing out. If you're a 15-year-old girl who hasn't been invited to a party, you not only have fear of missing out, you see it play out, the party play out in real time while you're in your room. The number of teens who see their friends every day has been cut in half in the last 10 years. So we have isolation, we have self-loathing, we have loneliness, and we have some organizations, quite frankly, located here in America that seem to really hold no regard for the well-being of teens and, quite frankly, delay and obfuscate what I would think is real vital research on this issue.
When you say organizations, meaning?
Facebook, and Facebook.
So what do we do about all of this?
I personally think that the key is, I'm not a big fan of regulation. I do believe that we should revisit the Content Decency Act that exonerated them from the same liability as Verizon. If you started putting out content that resulted in an increase in suicide among teen girls and they could reverse engineer it to the content here today, we would all be in a lot of trouble, as would this company. For some reason, we've decided the tech platforms aren't subject to the same scrutiny and regulation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think competition helps a lot. I think there is no reason for this company to pay attention because there are no competitors who can raise their hand and say, I'm going to create a safe place for your teen kids. So I go to my go-to is break them up. I think these companies have become monopolies. I think power corrupts, and we have very corrupted companies.
I want to ask you about parents and their role in this. So my kids are now young adults, and what I kind of figured out as my kids were growing up is kids are fine. It's the parents who are the problem. Kids don't start out messed up. The parents kind of make them messed up. So what you're describing social media as an external factor that parents of kids in this generation probably did not think about how to control themselves. So what are parents doing wrong, and what should they be doing differently?
Well, we let our kids go on screens because we want more time on our screens, right? When you first had, I don't know if you were like this, when we first had kids, we thought we were purists, no screens. And then you realize you want to sleep in on Saturday, so you want to put these things in front of a screen. So
the old screen just used to be the TV.
The TV.
Yeah.
And now we have them in front of their iPads and their phones, which is probably worse. I think there's a lot of things that need to be done. I think the schools need to take a leadership role because my son, 11-year-old son, is now on Fortnite because we don't want to ostracize them because all the other boys are on Fortnites. And I don't understand why schools don't take more of a stand and say, if you want to be enrolled in this school under the age of 16, we ask no social media at home. The question I would put forward is, what benefit does anyone under the age of 16 get from social media, other than a lack of self-worth and a greater over-indexing around depression? I mean, these things, we're going to look back on this age, and as parents, we're going to be outraged around what we let ourselves do and what we were willing co-conspirators in.